The Hawai'i Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht, a.k.a. Aloha Friday Happiness Project is the shirt he's wearing. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Happy Aloha Friday, and we are letting the fun times and the good times keep rolling because we have another in-studio guest, first-timer this time. Yesterday we had Eric Matthews, who joined us for the second time. You can get that wherever on hawaiisportsradio.com or our YouTube channel. But first-time victim in this studio. Chatted with him maybe a couple of years ago when he was first here in Hawaii. But we are excited to welcome University of Hawaii football Chief of Staff, Matt Chon, to the studio.
Woo! How we doing? Happy Aloha Friday. I actually am disappointing Coach Chang right now, but we're not in my Aloha shirt today. It's Aloha Friday, so every Friday staff's got to wear an Aloha shirt. So I apologize to you.
Come closer.
Canada,
Don't
Coach.
be afraid of the mic.
Oh, it's
over
scary.
there.
It's just like staring at me right now. But that's my fault for not telling you guys to wear your Aloha shirts. I didn't wear mine.
It's okay. I do have a UH Brotherhood
I do like the
shirt,
Brotherhood
so.
shirt. We got to get Paul one. He's got the Happiness Project going.
But
I love
there's
the
a rainbow
Happiness
thing
Project,
going
though.
on,
He's
at
got
least?
the rainbow going. I got the H. We're still good. We're rolling right now.
We're good.
I had a sisterhood shirt on today too. Like that was my first shirt, and then I was like, "There's a stain on it. It has to go in the wash."
we record this on YouTube, so you can't have the
on
stain.
it.
That was pretty much the only thinking was, "Oh no, we're on YouTube. I need to wear a shirt that's like not gonna look funny." And then it rained on me, and now I have
You
a
got
shirt
the
that
stain.
looks kind of funny. So either way, it's gonna be a fun day, even if we did forget to coordinate on the whole Aloha shirts.
I think the real question is, what kind of stain was on the shirt, guy?
I think it was a pasta stain, like a red sauce stain, because it was
I'm
like,
assuming it was the pink sisterhood. So
it was the pink
It's gotta be the
sisterhood
pink
shirt,
one.
and it already had been like washed out a bit, but like not enough where I was like, so
Still there. Speaking of sisterhood, August 10th, we'll see the aunties and the sisters there.
Woo! Good. I love
You're-
this plug. There, Matt doing his chief of staff type of duties, which we will get to a little later.
The job
but yes,
never stops.
August 10th, Sisterhood Social. You can go to hawaiisportsradio.com because that's an easier website to say than the actual registration website. So we make it easy for all of our listeners. You can go there. There's a little button on the homepage. Just scroll down a little bit and then you'll see it. It's right there to get more information, photos from last year, video. And yeah, and then maybe Matt Chon will drive you around in the golf cart because he has a lot of duties, which we'll get to a little later. But first, since it is your first time here on the show, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, like where you're originally from. Obviously, we kind of know a little bit about your school background, but nope, start from the beginning.
Ooh, you want the long story or the short story?
Medium story.
Medium story. We'll go with the medium story. First time being in the studio, though, but a little bit over 2 years ago was my first time being on the show here. Back then, I had no idea what pauhana meant or what a musubi was or anything, so I got caught early on and was figuring it out. But I'm originally from Sacramento, California, a little bit more north of Sacramento, but if you're not from there, you really don't know. But Pleasant Grove, a little small town. I think we had 150 people, went to East Nicholas High School. My graduating class was about 74 people. So
I still got him beat. I still got him beat.
Oh, you and Paul
No
from the
shot.
small
What do
time.
you got?
63.
Oh, geez. Okay. That's
But
good.
you're the only person I've talked to out here that's like even similar.
Yeah,
even
they're like
close.
people are talking about 400 or 500 kids.
That's
I'm
me.
saying we don't even have 400 people at our school.
Yeah.
Like, so, but it was fun. It was a fun time. Grew up in a family of 8, 6 boys, 2 girls. The girls were spread apart a little bit, so I apologize to them. They dealt with a lot of boys in between them. But it was good. Grew up there. for about 10 years. And then when I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do, if I was going to go to school or not. Started playing football my junior year of high school, fell in love with it really fast. Wasn't the greatest at it, but
What position?
fell in love with the game. Guess. Don't say kicker.
I feel like you told me this, but I forget. Running back.
A little bit of both. We played like a wing T kind of thing. Receiver, running back, corner. I actually played corner a lot of high school. We didn't really play any teams that threw the ball, so it was a lot of running the ball. It was some small school football out there, but it was good football. It was good fun. When I graduated, didn't know what I was going to do. Ended up at American River Junior College, just to go to school and figure it out from there. And then ended up joining the team, I think, in spring of 2016. And it was one of those things where football was there, but it wasn't there. And I walked away from it, but I was like, oh, I don't think I'm done with it yet. Like, I still hadn't gotten there all the way fully yet, and was trying to figure out what I was doing with life. And I'm sure everybody else has dealt with the same thing too. But it was just different for me. I was a homebody, worked a lot with my dad growing up, and again, had to help him. He ran his own business, so it was a family-run business. And it was an interesting childhood growing up with it, but it made me who I am today. So I went to American River, played there for about a year and a half, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm done with football. I'm just gonna go to school, and I ended up. My dream school was at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Oh.
Out of high school, I didn't get accepted, so I was like, okay, let's try again. And so I applied, and I got in, and I was like, okay, well, let's go to Cal Poly. And then when I was walking away from football, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to walk away from football yet. Like, it was just there. Like, it just was always there in the back, not exactly knowing where it was going to take me or what it was going to do for me. And so there was a stretch of time where I was fully committed to going to school and walking away from it. But I had a little bit of time to myself. I graduated a little bit earlier at American River, and I was like, hey, I'm not ready to walk away from it yet. And so I started looking into playing football again. Again, I wasn't the greatest player, but I loved playing football. I loved being around it. I loved being around the boys. I loved being around the hard work and the bond that you would build with those guys in the locker room. So I ended up at the University of Laverne down in SoCal, a little D3 school. And it's funny because I went there and something happened with like my financial aid and stuff, and they're like, you're gonna have to pay this big bill, and they're academically scholarships and everything, and none of it went through for some reason. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what had happened. It was probably one of the funniest, weirdest stories ever. And there's this giant bill staring at me in the face, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Selfishly, I can't do that. And I actually packed all my stuff up and I went home. So I packed my car up and drove 6 hours back home. And I was like, man, let's figure it out. And I was like, okay, well, I got to go back to school, because if I don't go back to school, I'm just going to go work, and I'll figure it out at that point. 3 days later, they call me back and they're like, hey, we figured it out. Like, do you want to come back? And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll come back. And so luckily, I didn't pack my car back up and everything, because I didn't know where I was going to end up. And I got back in the car and drove down, and it never actually got to the point where I played football. And this is where I look back at it, and I'm grateful for what happened. In the moment, I was kind of a little being a Debbie Downer about it, like, why me and everything. And so I got back, and the first day I got back, or first day or second day, I broke my scaphoid in my hand, and it was like the littlest randomest bone that you could break. And they're like, hey, well, you can have surgery, you can let it heal. And I was like, just let it heal. Like, you said 8 weeks, let's just let it heal. I'll be back before season, like halfway, like I'll miss 4 games. We'll be fine. I have another year. And it ended up getting drawn out. I was in this like giant purple full arm cast for about, I'll try to find a picture for you guys. It was a giant purple cast. They only had purple for some reason.
Hey, not a bad color.
And my school colors were green, and the rival school was purple.
Oh, so never mind. That's bad color then.
Yeah. And so they're like, I was like, I don't know what you want me to do with it. So the school, they're like, can't wear purple here. Purple or red. You couldn't wear those 2 colors. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. And so they gave me this giant white cover. So I'm walking around with this giant purple cast with a giant white cover on top of it, because I can't wear purple. And it's like, you're going to wear this for about 8 weeks. And it ended up being 8 weeks. And then they're like, oh, you got to keep it on for 4 more weeks. And then they took it off, and I went into like this half arm cast, and it was like the whole semester I was in the cast. My first semester gone, away from home, first semester at college. It's me the greatest time of my life. And it's this giant cast that I'm wearing all summer, all fall, and not playing in a football game and everything. Then I get to my senior year, and we're in spring ball, and I feel good, and I feel like the most confident I've ever been playing the game of football. And we get into spring ball, and the second day I come back, and I tear my ACL.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I went through this stretch of, like, wanting to play this game of football, and I knew the NFL wasn't the goal. That it was just wanting to enjoy football. I like I said, I fell in love with the game just like everybody else does. And it was one of those things where it's like, oh, man, like, back to back, like, am I ever going to be able to play football at my point in life? Like, and then during that stretch, I look back at it, and it put me in a situation where it got to where I'm at today, and put me in a situation to figure out about all the things outside of just coaching and football. And I think a lot of people don't realize it in regard to it with recruiting and personnel and player development and operations and everything with it. And so what it did is it put me in a situation where, like, I was still around the boys and everything. And my head coach at the time was like, well, like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to hang out? Do you want to be around it? You can help the receivers coach. You can help me. You can help with everything with it. And I was like, what is there to do? Like, you guys just coach football. Like, right? I'm just the 19, 20-year-old kid that has no idea what goes on in the background of it. And he's like, oh, brother, you have a lot to learn. Like, there's so much more in it. And so I took a deep dive into, like, recruiting and operations and kind of those things. And I actually wanted to coach. And so I went through that whole thing and figured it out. I kind of learned about it. But at the end of the day, when I graduated, it was still one of those things where I thought that I was ready to walk away from football again. So I went through my last season, last season of school, and was figuring it out. And, you know, it wasn't as fun as I thought it was with the recruiting and the operations and everything goes with it. And all my guys at the school and that are on our support staff can attest to it. And we're grateful for it all. And there's a newfound respect for it. And the funniest one is Coach Keiki, who's our new general manager, but he was our running backs coach for the last 2 years. And it's funny when I talk to him, he's like, you know, I have a new respect for you guys on this side of the ball because you guys deal with a lot of stuff that I had no idea you guys dealt with. And it's not just the position group or your 12 guys, 6 guys that you have. It's the 117, 120 guys on your roster. And so he's going through it. Shout out Cakes. He's doing a really good job for us, and he's doing a really, really good job and makes our lives easier. But it's funny when you hear people say that. They're just like, you had to do what now? And they're just like, yeah, no, we definitely did. And we didn't have to do it once. It was probably 15, 20 times. But I got to the point where I was like, no, again, like, I'm going to walk away from football. Like, I'm going all over the place with the story because it's funny because my mind was going all over the place when it happened. And I'm like,
right, hold that thought because we do need to take a break.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, no. We'll give you some breath. And then you can continue the story because it is. I love it though, like how all the adversities.
I'm just sat back enjoying myself, listening. I'm like, I'm sad. I'm like, this is a very nice story, very interesting story.
It's a random one for sure.
There's more, everybody. So don't go anywhere as we are joined by University of Hawaii football Chief of Staff Matt Chon. So you guys don't want to miss the rest of his, well, obviously your story is still yet to be written, but the beginning half of your story in football life. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and
Matt Chon.
I love how you introduce yourself. This is why we're having fun. I was waiting for the beat to drop and then introducing Matt Chon, but you just did it.
I didn't realize the beat was going. I thought you were waiting for me to go.
I thought he hit it with the beat perfectly.
I like it though.
That was
perfect.
Don't know how to act. I'm usually in an office right now. Like, I'm having fun, guys.
I love it. And yes, for everyone just tuning in, possibly, we are joined. The excitement that you hear going on right now, first timer in the studio anyways, has been on the show a while ago. And I'd like to think we have a lot of new listeners anyways. So a lot of people that maybe never heard my initial interview with you a couple of years ago, we were joined by UH football Chief of Staff, Matt Chon, Chief of Staff Plus, I feel like, because you don't do the traditional Chief of Staff work. You do a little bit of everything, like all of us here at Hawai'i Sports Radio. So it's perfect. All right. So we had to take a break, but we want to continue on with your journey that led you to, obviously, Nevada, stint possibly at Colorado State.
Oh, I didn't never get there. We'll get to that one, though.
And the University of Hawaii. But go. Continue with your story from earlier.
Gotcha. Well, I'll speed it up a little bit. I feel like I was talking a lot, but we're all good.
Good.
So I did my whole thing at the University of Laverne and graduated. And it got to another point again where football was there, but I didn't want my identity to be football. And I didn't know what it was, but I felt like football kept coming back in my life, and I didn't know if it was for better or for worse. And so I graduated, and I said, you got to walk away from football at this point. Like, you're not playing anymore. Let's just go. Let's go live a normal life. You graduated college. Let's go. And so I graduated college, and I actually took a job as a financial advisor, personal banker, and I went through that whole process. And I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to cuss. I say fudge instead of the F word. So it fudging sucked. And I was there every single day and I would go into work, and it was one of those, it was the typical 9 to 5, 8 to 4 job and weekends off and good pay and vacation and benefits and the whole nine. And I was just like, this isn't for me. And every day I was in there, there's this thing called the football scoop. And all my guys out there know what it is, and they check it. It's like our newspaper. It's the football newspapers. And so there, I was on that every single day. I'm at work logging into my computer, and I'm on the football scoop. And it's, I was like, man, Matt, you got to figure it out. Do you want to work in football? Do you not want to work in football? It's not a bad thing. You just got to make a choice. And so I knew at the end of the day, I was going to make the switch and try to jump back into football, whether it was coaching or the front office side of things. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to go back to football, and I missed the everyday new adventures and the fast-paced environment and everything with it. And so I worked for about 10 months over there down in SoCal. And it was good. It was good for me in terms of professional development and new skills that I developed, and learn what mortgages are and loans and all those little things that you don't really think about until you get there. And then at the end of those 10 months, though, this is the funny thing. I was like, an opportunity presented itself to go play football again. And so I packed my stuff up and I went to England. And and this is 2020, I think, during COVID, the COVID spread. And I graduated right before COVID happened. So I went through that whole 10 months of COVID. And I ended up in England, and I thought I was going to have the time of my life. I was going to play some football, travel, get my master's, and it was fun for about a month. And then COVID happened again out there, and they were a little bit more strict with it. Mm-hmm. And they went into an emergency lockdown, and we got locked in our apartment for a month, and then they let us out. And then 2 days later, they put us back in lockdown. And so during this stretch, I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm like. Are we just going to keep going in this cycle of lockdowns? And that's typically how it goes with everything. It was a national pandemic and everything, or a worldwide pandemic at that point, right? And then I was like, okay, well, maybe, again, this is a sign. God's telling me, hey, you're not supposed to play football anymore, Matt. Like, let's tie those cleats up and let's give them to somebody or hang them up, and you just keep moving on with life. And so I took that took that one, and I took a step back, and I was like, okay, there's obviously a reason for all this happening, and I believe in that. And for 4 months of a lockdown in England, me and my buddy now, one of my best friends now, we spent every day together locked in this little 400 square foot apartment, and we just talked about what we were going to do with life. And I told him, like, I'm going to go work in college football, and I'm going to make it to the NFL and work in the NFL. And he was like, all right, like, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know. And so I started reaching out to everyone on LinkedIn and Twitter and everything, and connecting with people before I wanted to come back. I was going to come back and not going to stay out there and wait for the pandemic to be over to continue playing football. And so I packed my stuff up, came back, and during that stretch, University of Nevada, Reno, one of my best friends went to school there, and he had a roommate that was dating somebody on the staff at the time. Never met this girl in my life. And she walked right into their office, their scouting department's office, and said, yo, I got this guy. He's like my best friend. He's the hardest working kid ever. You guys need to give him an internship. And you know what they did? They took it and ran with it. And I got an interview 2 days later. And another person who interviewed me, Silas Clapham, who's our director of player personnel now, was actually my boss over there. And so we became really good friends throughout the whole process. And 3 weeks later, I get offered an internship for it. And now it was an unpaid one, but it was an opportunity to go learn about college football and go work at a university in a program that was established and doing really well, with Coach Norvell going into his, I believe it was his 5th year. And it was the funniest thing ever because of how it happened. And no one ever knew the story until I'm going to forward a little bit. It was the first game of the season. We're on our way to Cal. We're playing Cal. And we're sitting next to my boss at the time, and me and Hope is the girl that stood on the table for me. And we're sitting next to each other, and he looks back at us and he's like, hey, it's like, how long have you guys known each other for? You guys seem like you've known each other for a while. And we look at each other and we started laughing. And we're like, I think it was 5 months at the time. And he's like, wait. He's putting 2 and 2 together. His name's Lucas, and one of the smartest people I've ever been around. He puts 2 and 2 together quick and looks at his legs like, wait, you told me you've known this kid forever and everything. And it was this funniest thing because he was like, you were so lucky it worked out for you, because if Matt was a dud, I'm coming for you. And so that's always my favorite part to tell about it. And me and Hope talk about it all the time. And that's how I got in. That's literally how I got in. I can't make it up. It was one of the funniest things. And again, I had probably emailed 40, 45 different schools saying, hey, I want to come work for free. But COVID during the time, and obviously they get those emails from everybody. Yeah. And so it was funny. But I started there in April of 2021. And I worked in the recruiting department, and I did that first season, and I went through a year there, and that was where I met Coach Chang. And again, I have a lot of funny stories with this.
You got to tell this one.
The first day I saw him, he looks down at me at the hallway, and we had a mutual friend through the coaching world, and I don't know how much that played a part in it, but he looks at me and he fist pumps the air, and he's like, we got another Asian guy in the office. Heck yeah. And so he took me under his wing from the start, and that was probably, again, that's where the relationship started, but that's who he is, and that's what I love about him, and that's what I try to steal from him, is how he is as a person. And he really kind of just took me in his zone, and he does that with everybody, but I took advantage of it a lot and asking him for advice, and just he was putting me in situations to elevate myself in it. Every Sunday, Monday morning, there's no janitorial service at the school. So every Sunday morning he would come in and look at me and be like, come on, let's go. And we would go around and empty all the trash cans in the office. And again, it's a credit to him on who I am as a person today and as a worker. But again, I owe him a lot. I owe him a lot for what he did to me back then, and what he's done for me now, and what he's continuing to do for me. But I worked with them for a season, and then at the end of that season, it was the craziest thing ever, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And again, I'm just the 24-year-old kid not knowing what's going on in college football and how it operates. I'm just here to be there and try to learn. And so we finish the season. Coach Norvell gets the job at Colorado State. And we're thinking we're going to, and at the time I was, and then Ken Wilson came into Nevada, and again, the people around me, I'm always grateful for it, and everyone's put me in situations for these opportunities, which I'm grateful for, and a lot of people spoke highly of me to Ken Wilson at Nevada, and I appreciate Coach Wilson, because when he offered me the DFO job, the director of operations, and I sat there and I laughed and I looked at him. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And he said, well,
sounds like me half the time.
You think I was so scared, because again, I don't want someone's, and I believe it was his first time being a head coach, but for him to take an opportunity on me and offer me that and believe that I can do the job meant a lot to me. But I also just didn't want to be the guy that acts like he knows what he's doing. And then you get to a situation, and we're in a situation, and he looks at me like, hey, what do you do here? I'm just I don't know. And I told him straight up, I said, Coach, I don't know everything. I just started here less than a year ago. I'm figuring it out, and I will figure it out, but I don't know if I can do the job that you want me to do. He said, I think you can. You're not going to be alone. You'll be good. We got you. And he had a chief of staff, Jim Mastro, who was really good for me there as well. And they're like, okay, we'll take care of you. And during that time, I was conflicted because Coach Norvell and those guys were family. They were my first family. But an opportunity like this doesn't come often. And everybody there they were super supportive, the guys at Colorado State. And they all said, like, you'd be an idiot not to take it. You'll take it. Pick up the phone and call me if you need anything. So did a lot of soul searching, and I ended up taking the job at Nevada to stay there. And they were good over at Colorado State, all our old guys, old staff and everything. And one of the first people I told that I was going to stay at Nevada was Coach Chang again. And he's like, he said, good, be an idiot not to, but if I ever become a head coach, like, you're going to come be my guy. And I will always remember that conversation, because we're sitting there thinking, and we didn't know what was going to happen in 3 weeks after that conversation. It was December 28th. It was a Monday. And we're just going, and he was like, if you ever need anything, let me know. And then obviously everything started happening here in Hawaii. And it was kind of the elephant in the room for me of, like, I'm not knowing what's going on and what the situation is. And then he ends up getting the job, and we're at an official visit. And I was like, okay, I can't do anything with this. I got to finish this official visit out because it's where my feet are at right now. And Sherry calls me, and she's like, hey, we're going to Hawaii. And it's just like, so I ended up at their house that night, and we talked for a while, and, you know, he told me what he wanted and what he needed from me. And again, I was scared for that one too. Again, Nevada, I knew I was comfortable, and Hawaii was a place where I don't know. I've been here once, and I was actually 4 months before, it was right before season, I came out for vacation. And so it was ironic because I was like, man, I don't know next time I'm going to be back at this place. And I was like, I didn't want to leave.
Well,
and look at me now, 2.5 years later, 3 years, going on to year 3 right now. And it was a fun thing because it was a confidence boost for me to see that people believed in me. And again, I always knew that I could do things, but I didn't know what I was capable of in those moments of not knowing what situations were. And he's done that for me, and he's helped me become a better person. But he's like, you can come with me, be my chief of staff. We'll figure it out. And I told him again, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And again, I was a DFO, and I felt
sounds so similar.
And exactly. It's funny though, because it's no one ever really knows what they're doing. It's kind of just a thrown into the fire and figure it out, which is always the best thing.
Yep.
And so he was like, come on, let's go get this thing right. And so similar to everybody else, he said, like, we have to go rebuild this place. And this was home for him and home for a lot of people on the staff with CB and Coach Favi and Kate and all those guys over there. But I don't think I blinked twice at it. There was a time where I think he might have hesitated, and our guy Cade Sosha, him and Cade, I don't know if they thought I wasn't going to go or not, but in the back of my head, I knew I was always going to go be with these guys over here. And so it's been a fun journey. A long time ago, I think my start day was January 28th or 27th. I want to say the 28th. I hope it's the 28th. Could be kind of funny. But it's been a long journey. It's been fun though, and here we are. So.
And of course, we're excited to have you here. You bring nothing but the ball of joy here for all of us too. We've enjoyed having you in studio already.
Oh, me too.
So if anyone is tuning in right now, by the way, we're joined by UH football chief of staff Matt Chon, just sharing that story. Oh my gosh! And now you're here, like you said, in Hawaii.
Hey, Coach Chang, I promise you everything is fine at the office right now. Ren's got it. Kade's got it. They're all good. They're fine.
He's on vacation though.
I know, but we got to hold the fort down. He doesn't know I'm here right now.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
Shh, never tell. Never tell.
Again, he's on vacation. I'm going to end up seeing them Mountain West Media Days.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping around there. So I'm like, hey, Sherry's going to be in town. Woohoo! The girls can go have fun.
Yeah. Playing some sisterhood over there. We'll just call it that.
Yeah. But no, how was it? You said the first time you came out here was vacation, just a few months before actually having to move out here for the actual job. So just what were kind of like what was the first week like for you as chief of staff as you started to really figure things out, get familiar with, our campus and just the lay of the land? Because it's different coming here for a job than when you're on vacation. You just look up all the touristy stuff to do and you just have a lot of fun. But now you're here for work. So what was that kind of like in the first week, if you can recall?
Oh, you know how they say like drinking out of a fire hose? I'm going to steal this from our HR lady who's been saying it a lot. It felt like I was drinking out of a fire hydrant. Like, you know how like in the movies it pops off and it's just going? Like that's what I felt like I was drinking off of. But it was probably one of the most funnest, stressful times of my career so far. Just in terms of kind of figuring out the lay of the land, meeting all different types of people. There was a lot of food there. I probably gained like 10 pounds the first week I was here. But it was definitely, it was an eye opener for a lot of things. Just because for me, I was figuring it out, and I just had figured it out in Nevada. And that was why I was like, I was scared to leave because I just figured it out and I felt comfortable. And ironically enough, again, back then, like the weekend before he got the job, I was sitting in my office at Nevada and I was like, you're going to be all right. We're going to be all right, Matt. Like I'm pep talking myself. Like there's a lot of pep talks that got to go on behind closed doors. And it was one of those ones where you just are in a new place and a new setting and new people and new processes and procedures and how everything works. And so, again, there's really good people on this island and within the program, including you guys right here that I'm talking to and Mike and everyone else. You can go down a long list, but it'll take me an hour and a half, 2 hours to get through it. So I love everybody here. Thank you guys for making my life easier. But it was stressful. And I'm not going to lie about it. I'll admit that it was stressful. I'm not going to act like it wasn't. But I knew it was going to be set up for success down the line. So it was an exciting time, but it was a stressful time. But a lot of the stress came from putting it on myself of like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that, instead of just enjoying the moment and just going with it and just going through the process with it. I was trying to rest the process in my head. Because again,
I get that.
I didn't know. So I was like, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? There were a lot of phone calls to other people, some of my old bosses and mentors. And when they said, pick up the phone and call me, I don't think they thought that I was going to call them that many times. And so it was a fun time though.
Yeah, I totally get it. And if you're, I always have to remind Paul now, because I've been through it at your guys' age where I still kind of like that. I think because I'm a little ADD. So I just always am like, well, okay, I got to do that. Yeah. Thinking of this, I should start on this. Oh, wait, shoot. I got to go back to finishing this project first, yada, yada, yada. But Paul's kind of the same way too. So there's every now and then when I'm like, work-life balance, Paul. Don't stress out about it too much.
Paul, you got to find it. Go to the beach. Go hang out.
See, that's funny because he doesn't care for the beach.
It's funny. I moved to Hawaii and the beach is not like my jam comparatively.
But his future wife likes the beach. So the happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life.
Correct. Correct.
All right,
don't let Koo fool you, by the way, about work-life balance as if she is some like elite. Oh, she doesn't ever go overboard on work. I had to give verbal praise because she finally took some time to herself last weekend.
It's tough, but that I think something that we can all agree on is that we love what we do, so it's hard to walk away.
Yes.
So you enjoy it, and that's what we're grateful for. But you gotta go to the beach, guy. I don't know what you're doing out here and not going to the beach.
Well, especially I have a wedding in a month. I need to get a little tanner for the pictures.
Just make sure you put on some sunscreen.
Hey, yeah, that's true.
You'll
That's
be all right.
very, very true.
That's the main thing. All right. On that note, perfect timing to take our last break as we are joined in studio by UH Football Chief of Staff Matt Chon. When we come back, we will ask you all about what your day-to-day looks like now and kind of take a look ahead. I mean, I know you're more of like the front office side and not necessarily a coach per se, but you still can give us the positive vibes of what to look forward to this upcoming season, because we're going to go over the 4.5. I have to say it every time and look in the camera. Over 4.5 win total, but we'll be back.
Over 4.5. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I might throw my whole salary on it. I'm not gonna do it, but
like,
if I could,
I
would.
It's a joke.
It's a joke, not actually going to happen. Not happening. Only, but we can, like here in this studio, but no, not Matt, not Matt. But anyways, we'll be right back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. alongside DJ Pauly B. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani, and we are just having a good old time, joined in studio by University of Hawaii football Chief of Staff Matt Chon. All right, Matt, now's the time for the hard questions, because
I thought the first ones were hard.
we're having fun. But all right, so now fast forward a couple years later, as you've gotten acclimated to not only the job, but also just the environment, everything like that. So what does your day-to-day look like? I guess that's a two-part question. So what does your day-to-day look like now during the off season, and then gearing up and during the season itself?
Gotcha. There's two different seasons. It's the off season and the in season. During season's probably easier to explain than the off season, but the overall day to day, it's kind of Coach Chang's got this saying that he needs firefighters on his staff, and you guys know it. There's nothing ever goes as planned, and nothing's ever perfect, and so it's always being on the ready to move and adjust and figure things out on the fly with it, and it doesn't happen often, but there's always like the most randomest thing that'll pop up that takes up your whole day. But it's being around those guys, being around our players, doing everything for them, making sure that they're good, ready to go throughout their days, whether it's school, lifting, field work, treatment, all those different types of things. But overall job responsibility, it's kind of to be Coach Chang's right hand, and make sure that I try to take a little bit more stress off his life. And that's the goal, whether it's a little bit or a lot, as long as I can do something for him where he can look at me and be like, I'm glad he's here and I'm glad I have him, and the program in general and the rest of the staff. But it's to make everyone's life easier. And I don't do it by myself. We have our whole support staff, including our GAs and QCs that are a big help. But Silas, Keiki, Ella, Ren, all those guys over there, and Colin. But I'm missing a couple people, but they're all make my life easier, and we all have our own departments that they work in, and I'm kind of there just to be there to help them and make sure everyone's organized and everything's operating smoothly. But it's hard to explain, and people always ask me that, and I always laugh. I'm just like, it depends on the day, it depends on the time of the year.
If there's anyone that gets it as much as anybody else, it would be people in the studio as well, what that's like.
And and again, I think that's why we all get along with it, because it's the funniest thing. It's like, whether you're busy or you have some time, it's like we all understand each other's work schedules and work balances and stuff. But it's essentially just to be there for everybody, make sure that we're operating on a smooth basis day to day, and making sure things are good, whether it's the budget or the logistical stuff and recruiting and personnel. And again, it is hard for me to explain, but it's one of those things that it's a new day every day, and that's my favorite part about it. But off season, we have spring ball and our spring weights and our summer weights and our summer PRP program that our kids do. But again, once that thing gets rolling, it kind of runs itself, and so a lot of the off season is planning for the season and making sure everything's organized for that, and really kind of getting ahead for the next off season. And it's always being able to look ahead and figure it out. And trying to stay as organized as possible with it. But again, if I can make Coach Chang's life easier and everybody's life easier, it's a win in my book. During the season, it's the same week every week, whether it's a home or away, which is nice. But it's just making sure that, again, everyone's getting from point A to point B, and everyone's good, and in terms of our recruiting department is good, and they're operating the way Coach Chang needs them to operate, and our personnel department and development and operations, and everyone's on the same page. And so that's the best way I can explain it. I promise it's a lot more work than that, guys. Like it sounds like I'm not saying a whole lot, but it's got its moments. It's a you have to be there and be in it moment. But it's an interesting one though.
What would you say is probably your favorite thing about the job?
Ooh.
And all the stresses and all the craziness and the schedules and everything. Do you have like something that's kind of like the favorite where you're like, hey, this is awesome that this is what I'm doing?
There's a couple, but if I had to pick it, it's the balance between being around football and being around people. Now, the coaching side, you're kind of just engulfed in football and the program specifically, and who our staff is. That's it. But for this job specifically, like I get to interact with you guys and everybody else outside of football. And it's like, I love talking to people. I don't know if you guys can tell it or not, but I love talking to people. And relationships are everything for me. And so it gives me the balance of being around football and being around people and not just being engulfed in one and not having the other. And that's my favorite thing about this. It's I get to do a little bit of everything that I love to do. And I get to do it in Hawaii. And I'm like looking out the window right now, like I'm living in Hawaii right now. And that's probably one of the best things about it, and being able to enjoy the islands and the culture.
And you're a Cali guy, so you kind of like this type of weather.
Yeah, I'm still a Cali guy at heart, but Hawaii's become home now. And so,
like I said, we're happy to have you here as we are joined in studio by UH Football Chief of Staff, Matt Chon. All right, looking at, since you aren't a coach, so you really get to see like everything, right? Like from the towers. What have you seen? Because we talk about it on the show, but we're not in it every day. But there has to be a lot of truth to like how much the culture has changed from when you guys first arrived until now, and why people like us feel so good about going into this third season under Coach Chang, because that's what it feels like. We can tell. But how can you describe how the culture has shifted and all the pieces finally falling into place now?
Yeah, it's definitely been fun to watch the process happen. And one thing that Coach Chang said when we first got here, and everyone knows it, and it's the truth of it, and there's nothing wrong with anyone that was in the program when we showed up. But we walked into empty cupboards essentially with all the transfers and not knowing what we had. And again, we didn't know what kind of team we were going to be. And Coach Chang was wanting to establish his culture and what he wanted to be as a head coach, especially being back home. But he said this to me when we were looking at the roster and we were looking at the program after the first week, and we were looking at everything. He said, you know what, it's going to take 3 years to get to where we need to get. And typically that's the timeline across the board with it. But when we sat there and talked about it, when we look back at it now, 3 years ago, we're where he wanted this place to be. He said it was going to take time to build a culture that really revolves around our mantra right now, which is brotherhood. And I know it's as simple as saying brotherhood, but it's so much of a deeper meaning to just the word. It's doing everything for the guy next to you, not just for yourself, sacrificing for the greater good of the program and everyone involved with it. And it's been fun to see. It's been fun to see it go from year one to year two, where we were figuring out who we were. We were figuring out who we were going to be as a program, who we were going to be as a team, who we were going to be as a staff, and watching Coach Chang become his own. And again, it's a tough job being a first-time head coach in a place where you have to rebuild everything. But I don't think there is a better person out there to do it at that time and really at this place. And he's done everything, and he's done everything to put these kids in a situation that we're in now, and our staff and himself and the community and the program and the department. And so it's one of those things where you feel it and the community feels it, and being involved in it and seeing where it's come from year one to year three, it's been cool to see, because there is an established culture. There is a reason why kids want to come play here, and the kids want to stay home or they want to come back home because they see it and they feel it and they hear it. And it's hard to explain unless you're in it. And you just get to watch it every day. You watch how these kids operate, you watch how he operates, and you watch how the staff operates. It's a special thing, and I'm excited for it. I know the boys are excited for it, and the staff's excited for it. I hope you guys are excited for it.
We've been excited. We've been excited since it ended.
And we're rolling. We're counting down the days to August 24th and to get this thing going. But it's a good time in the program right now. Everything's established. The culture's established. The bonds have been built. Even the new kids that have come in, our kids do a good job of bringing them in, and I think our staff is doing a really good job of emulating what Coach Chang wants us to do. And so everything's rolling on the same cylinder, and so we're excited. It's a really good thing.
We're gonna have to like repurpose this when the season ticket sales go on sale, or season tickets go on sale in like a few weeks or so. I mean, I know the renewals went out, so all of you guys who had season tickets, the renewals went out. But for the new season tickets, we're gonna have to replay this because we need to fill that like TC Chang Athletics complex with everyone, because it's gonna be a big year. And I know we are definitely always lean positive in this studio. That's just our Paul's and mine personality. But no, like 100%. Like there's a reason why we're still professionals. We still are very real when it comes to evaluating sports and sports teams.
Yeah, as you should.
But I mean, we've been saying it like how many times and kind of telling the people as well. It's like, hey, couple of years, there's still like anything else. Everyone knows that 3 years is the timeline, and the goal is to make sure things start to feel like it's changing by that third year. So we're gonna over 4.5.
Hammer. Over.
Hammer.
Like it's the easiest decision you've ever done in your life. I'm just telling you guys.
In our non-professional opinions.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a professional bettor.
That part not professional. Maybe our VSiN guys that's on their national programming.
Putting on my non-professional hat over. Putting on my professional hat. Oh, wow, what a nice team we've assembled here.
I'm not allowed to comment on this, so I'll stop.
Exactly. I was like, Matt.
I'm just here.
You're just here. It's just us.
So what does 4.5 mean?
Yeah, anyways. So got about 5 minutes left, so let's have a little fun because you brought it up earlier in the show. And I remember our first interview we did with you because we joked because you're Asian and you're like, yeah, a lot of people think I'm like from here.
Yeah.
And you're like you said, you didn't know what a musubi was. So what has been kind of now that we're fast forward a couple of years later, how many different types of foods have you tried, and what has been maybe like a favorite of yours now that you possibly never knew existed, or some new things you tried? I don't know how far down the list you went on actual like Hawaiian food or Filipino food, but yeah, what were some of the new things that you've tried here? I hope you tried a lot more things since the first time we chatted a couple years ago.
I've tried a lot.
You probably had a lot of musubis by now.
A lot of musubis. That 7-Eleven down the street, right there on King Street, should sponsor the Hawaii athletics department. There's a lot of our staff and a lot of the department that goes down there, and they take care of us there. But it's 7-Eleven food is some of my favorite food, to be honest with you. My buddies and my best friends and my little brother are in town right now, and one of the first places I took them was to 7-Eleven. I said, yo, like, just try the musubi, like, get you a California roll, musubi, and like you can
Did they think you were poor?
They looked at me like I was crazy, guys. Like, they're like, because again, like, there's not a knock on it, but I was like, the food, like, you can eat all, like, it's good. Yeah. Like, eat it.
It's different here compared to the continent. That's why,
And so they're like looking at me, and they didn't believe me. And one of my buddies, Will, he walks in the store and he starts grabbing food, and then all of a sudden they start grabbing the food like they didn't believe me, like I was lying to them. But it's funny though. But
it's really one of those if you know things. Like,
has to be.
Once you come to Hawaii and you go to one 7-Eleven, you're like, oh, this is different from every single 7-Eleven I've experienced in my life.
And then Japan is like a whole other level. I mean, the women's basketball team, like pretty much the entire team said the thing they're looking forward to the most when they were going on the Japan tour was trying 7-Eleven.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll put that on our itinerary for when we take the football team over there, huh, Craig?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was gonna say that I know that's a goal for Craig. Anyway, speaking of, I mean, he was on the show last week, and as it deals with football, I mean, how exciting is that for you guys, knowing that you guys will have your flights chartered now this upcoming season?
Oh, that is one of the biggest game changers out there, especially for the boys. Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest fight. Like, us as a staff, we'll sit next to each other, we'll cram next to each other on a flight and be fine. We're not the ones going out there and putting our lives on the line for 3.5 hours for a win in the W column. And so it's big time for them because there's a lot of different reasons that it does. It gets them back home a lot earlier than it would taking a commercial flight, but it also shortens the trip. And one of the toughest things for those guys is the academic side of things during the season of being able to balance a 20-hour care week that we get them for, while the stresses of academics, and they do a good job of it, and Coach Chang and the staff do a good job of doing study hall and things like that with it, but it shortens the week for them. It shortens the trip. Typically, we'd leave on like a Wednesday and come back Sunday. Now we're leaving on a Thursday, coming back Saturday night right after the game, so it changes everything, and hopefully it's an advantage for us and the boys, and they feel a little bit more fresh coming off the flight and getting back home, but it makes my life easier, it makes everyone's life easier. It's a big thing, and appreciative that we got it done with Craig and Tiffany and Hawaiian Airlines and everyone else that played a part in it. But it's a big feat for us. It's a big win.
Let's go. Like I'm hyped for it, and I'm glad that the overwhelming thought process is how it's going to help the boys. I only have one real question that I've been curious about.
Let's hear it.
Ever since you said you work with the whole team, who's your favorite position group? Like, and it doesn't have to be anything other than just who's the funniest, or it can be who you like the best. I don't take the question however you like, but since you work with the whole team, you kind of oversee, and that includes coaches.
Don't worry, you only have a minute, so
I was
you don't
gonna
have
say,
to go
you got
into
1 minute.
What if I just drag this out and I don't answer this question? And we just do it on a follow-up series.
I asked it at this point in the show.
No, I appreciate it. Honestly, all the groups are really good. They're the funniest group though, and they know it. And there's a competition between the two. It's the receivers and the DBs, and that's always the competition from being on the field to just the bonds that those guys have. But they're a fun time to be around. And again, every group is fun to be around. But if I had to, if you're asking me to go hang out with some of those guys, it'd be the corners and the DBs really, and then the receivers. But they're a good group of guys. It's a fun time.
That checks out. Those were your positions anyway, right?
Yeah, that's where my heart is.
Yeah, exactly.
My initial guess would have been like the linemen, because they're always
D-line was what I thought.
No, those guys are good too, but they're just I'm too much smaller. I'm like,
on that note,
just so much more bigger than me.
we gotta go. But yeah, for Matt Chon, Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahalo for listening. Bye.
Thank you guys.